Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us here today. Earlier this morning, the Denver Broncos Foundation launched an innovative and game-changing new program called All In, All Covered. Under the leadership of the Walton Penner Family Ownership Group and the Board of Directors of the Foundation, this came together over the last 6 months as a way to remove and reduce barriers for participation, especially in tackle football. Over the course of 4 years, beginning this upcoming fall, the Denver Broncos Foundation will provide 15,516 Riddell Axiom helmets to cover every single high school tackle football program in the state of Colorado. Those 277 high schools will receive helmets, as well as helmet starter kits, including basic maintenance tools, a Riddell sideline device, and a 4-year subscription to Insight Analytics, which is a premier coaching tool that will allow us to help coaches make the game safer for their athletes on and off the field. We couldn't do this without the partnership of Riddell, but also our friends at CHSAA. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thanks so much, Allie. I feel like a collective wow would be in order. It is a little bit hard to wrap your mind around an initiative that will have the kind of impact that this one will have. We started working on this with Allie and Bobby about 4 or 5 months ago. So if you think about that time frame, also to get something like this done is pretty impressive. I think I'd like to point out for our member schools and our membership, this comes on the heels of a multi-year effort to launch girls flag football last year. In fact, we just had the championship events about 2 months ago. So you wrap that up, and right as that's finishing up, we're talking about this initiative to really impact the tackle football programs across the state of Colorado. This being the largest philanthropic investment in Broncos history. I just want that to sink in for you. Think of all the impact that the Broncos Foundation and the Broncos organization has had on Broncos country across the whole region, but especially our state. And let that sink in for a minute, the largest philanthropic investment. And for us to be able to be here today to share in that opportunity is just, it's hard to wrap our minds around. So I think it goes without saying that we're excited. I think that's an understatement, but I think that word would only be surpassed by the word gratefulness. We're very grateful for this opportunity and the tools that come along with it. I hope you understand that this is more than just handing schools a football helmet. The technology that comes with this, the gold standard that was picked here to share with students, there's an athlete health and wellness component to this that's really important to note. I just want to thank the Denver Broncos Foundation, of course, but especially Bobby and Allie for their work, President Damani Leach with the organization, who's just a strong supporter of all of our programs. But I especially, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank Carrie Walton Penner, Greg Penner, and the ownership group and the Denver Broncos Foundation and their leadership. We're really blessed in Colorado, if you think about it. This is unprecedented around the country. And for us to be in this position, I think they just deserve the greatest thanks, and their leadership, it goes beyond being inspirational. Carrie Walton Penner, Greg Penner, they do inspire us, but their efforts are heartfelt. They really invest in our athletes in our schools, in CHSAA, and we're just really honored to be part of this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll now open the floor to any questions for either Allie or Mike.
Can you just talk about the safety aspect of these helmets and what an impact it'll have for Colorado athletes?
Yeah, I think for coaches especially, I think one of the things we're going to obviously focus on is the athlete health and wellness components. You're getting the top rated in helmet studies. It's the gold standard helmet, right? So you get that piece with the athlete health and wellness, but the Insight technology and advancements there that come with it to measure contact points and contact levels, that's a teaching tool for coaches. They can take that information, go back to their practices and say, how can we be better at coaching this technique or this type of, making sure we're getting our heads up when we tackle our body positions correct. That's information that is hard to come by, and the technique and the technology is still developing, but Riddell has done such a great job with it. That becomes a tool for coaches that's going to benefit athlete health and wellness.
Yeah, I would add to that. So every single helmet is equipped with a 5 sensor point technology that is Insight Analytics. The other unique feature of this helmet is that it utilizes true fit technology, so every single athlete receives a personalized custom fit for every single helmet. That's actually created for that athlete specifically at the Riddell factory, and these helmets do not utilize foam or air adjustments. So in a state like Colorado, where we're playing at altitude, our kids will have the opportunity to have the safest, best fit every single time they put their helmet on, never having to wonder if the change of altitude or elevation is going to impact the fit of their helmet.
Allie, can you speak to why this initiative, why this program? Obviously, a lot of different ways that Walton Peners could support the community, but going from flag to this, can you speak to kind of how you think we might come about?
Absolutely. We believe that youth sports provides an incredible opportunity in our community, and that is not only teaching youth on the field things like teamwork and sportsmanship and how to work together, but off the field really preparing them to be successful. Health and wellness is a core pillar and a foundation priority for us, but taking this a step further to high school tackle football, we are a professional football team. We have an obligation, a responsibility, but an opportunity to support our youth in special ways. And so working with USA Football and CHSAA, we know that the helmet is the single most expensive piece of individual equipment required to play tackle football. That's a barrier. That's a barrier for schools that don't have access to funds. It's a barrier for individual athletes who don't have an opportunity for their parents to purchase one for them. So if we can make the game safer and also remove barriers so that more kids can play, it allows us to further our mission to make a positive impact statewide. And that was similar to our goal with Girls Flag of how do we give more youth more opportunities to experience the benefit of sports that we all believe so deeply in.
The custom fit of the helmets, when I guess a senior graduates and a freshman gets it, how will that be adjusted?
Yeah, so the fits occur by a 3D imaging scan. So that is done on site at each of the schools. We're grateful to our partners at Riddell who will be conducting a blitz this February. So a Riddell representative will visit every single one of the 277 high schools to ensure that coaches know how to order, what the process looks like, and how to scan those. And so that 3D fit will take place. The image is uploaded to the cloud, which is then pulled at Riddell's factory to put the helmet together. So it will be up to each of the individual schools to determine how they would like to distribute helmets, which is no different than how schools are operating now. So schools may choose to provide the helmets to their varsity team, to their seniors, to sophomores, so that they are in the helmet for longer. That will be a decision up to the school. So if you take into account that the average lifespan of a helmet is about 8 to 10 years, with 15,516 helmets, depending on how many kids are utilizing the helmets, we could be seeing between 75,000 and 155,000 kids wearing these helmets over the next 13 years. Absolutely. They're refit as a part of the reconditioning process, which is an important aspect that all schools are budgeting for right now anyway. So they're planning to recondition their helmets at the end of every season. When they send their helmet back for reconditioning, it gets reconditioned and reconfigured for the next athlete. Every single helmet will have a sticker on the back of who that helmet was built for. So every single player will have their name on their helmet so that they're not passing them between each other, and we know that the fit is specific to that helmet. I don't know if you want to add anything on that.
You get it.
Mike, what have you heard from your membership, especially maybe rural schools, lower income school districts, as to this need, and has there been challenges in buying helmets as they phase out?
Well, I can tell you this, there's not a lot of athletic directors walking around their high schools wondering what they're going to do with all the extra money they have. So school budgets are tight. And as Allie mentioned, this piece of equipment especially is one of the more expensive ones that school budgets face and athletic departments face. So it's going to have huge impact. We just announced it to the membership about 10 minutes before coming up here this morning. So I think the look I got and some of the comments walking out of the room was just a little bit in awe of this opportunity and what it's going to mean. This is really going to have a significant impact, and that impact's going to go beyond football programs, because where those funds would have went to helmets, now you can share, across multiple programs. So this has great impact, again, not just in the football programs, but especially for them. But this is going to really resonate for athletic budgets and school budgets across the board in all parts of our state.
Mike, I'm curious, national participation in tackle football has inched up over the last couple of years, and it's not still below the peak of about 2009.
Yep.
What does Colorado participation look like And do you view this as something that can help allay concerns for parents that are maybe on the fence?
Yeah, in Colorado, we've been tracking along those same lines where definitely participation numbers have grown since the 2020-21 seasons. Participation continues to increase in tackle football as well as all sports, to be honest with you. But I do anticipate, because one of the barriers that Allie mentioned was the safety, aspects of it, and parents that are wondering, is it safe for my child to participate in this sport? And when we can address some of those health and wellness issues through a piece of equipment as well as training, that's why I think it's important to recognize the technology that comes with this. If I'm a parent, that's definitely going to resonate with me.
Mike, curious, you mentioned the technology. What else can you glean from it? To your point, if you're seeing the technology that there's too many, collisions with the head, would that lead you to believe in saying there's either a certain amount of improper instruction going on that needs to be addressed at some schools or some locations about the amount of impact that's going on?
Yeah, I really appreciate the question, because I think it is important to note that equipment is one piece, right? You don't just give a piece of equipment, any piece of equipment, and say, okay, that solves all of our issues. It really is all inclusive. So the thing I love about this too is, again, you take the equipment and you take the technology with it, and that's going to inform coaches. So, and it's position by position too. So you can look at linemen and you can say, what are we doing in terms of teaching our linemen in proper positioning and footwork and hands and where we're placing in defensive players, where are we putting our head in the tackle? Those are coaching points. That's instruction. If you just give this helmet and you don't provide that piece, we've made gains, but we can't make the same gains we could if education and resources come with it. And that part of it for coaches is really an important piece. It can really impact the way that they design practices and how they, how they decide to shape a specific technique or drill within that practice. That's where some of the difference is really going to have impact.
And is this the same exact technology, maybe the answer to this, that the NFL is using, or is it ideal or identical to what the NFL and what they're using, or even at the college level?
Yeah, so we, in conversations with Riddell, are proud to report many colleges are utilizing this across the state, or across the country. About 1,400 schools are already using Insight Analytics technology. Only 9 of those schools are in Colorado. So we are automatically giving our schools an opportunity to learn from this new and innovative opportunity. From the collegiate into the NFL space, yes, these are Axiom helmets are available at the collegiate and NFL level. We have many Broncos players that utilize these helmets, and it is their personal helmet of choice. So we're also equipping our student athletes at a high school level with the same helmets that they see some of the players that they may emulate in their game taking the field with each Sunday as well.
Could I add one other component to that too? It can also help shape policy, right? So you take the education, you take the equipment, and then you can shape policy once you have the kind of data and information that we have, and that can also influence a governing body like ourselves to help support our membership.
As far as high schoolers go, because some of them are knuckleheads, so in case one of these were to break or crack open or something wild were to happen, is there a program in place where schools get a certain number of replacements, or is there anything of that nature? Do the schools have a certain number they're allowed per year?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the number of helmets that each school will receive was based off of the average roster size of their classification. So every single 6-man school will receive 22 helmets, all the way up to every 5A school will receive 100 helmets. Part of the first initial wave of the donation will also include helmet starter kits. And so that includes a lot of basic maintenance tools that schools don't have because they don't have these in their inventory already. So that includes replacing face masks and visors and the nuts and bolts to make sure that those helmets are available. Similar to any other helmet now, that reconditioning process at the end of each season will be utilized by the schools to make sure that it's ready for the next season. So they have kind of the stopgap in between. Obviously, it is up to the schools and their athletic trainers to determine what is safe and what can go out onto the field. But those maintenance kits will help during the season for when they go back for reconditioning.
Allie, given the large scope of this initiative, how much collaboration went on inside of the building to make it happen?
Oh, such a great question. So from concept to launch, so if I take you back to the Denver Broncos Foundation board meeting in August, we're about 24 weeks from concept of the idea to standing here today. And so while a lot of the conversations were happening with partners like CHSAA and Riddell inside the building, we really had to lean on experts of our own. So in conversations with Chris Valenti, Flip, our equipment manager, we spent a lot of time with Flip learning about helmets. what our current players look for in helmets, what is available to high school athletes in that space, working hand in hand with our public relations team, our digital media team, marketing. How do we take something, an idea, and kind of make this broad kind of approach to it from a statewide initiative? We do very few things at this level across the entire state. And so it really took a lot of collaboration. Our IT department, our legal department, we have MOUs with every single school, as well as CHSAA, as well as Riddell. And so hundreds of hours have gone on behind the scenes across, I'd say, probably more than a dozen or 15 or so different departments to bring it to life.
Allie, I know it's hard to predict the future, but is there talk about expanding it at least to maybe 7th and 8th grade to a Pop Warner program if this goes well? I know it's easy with CHSAA to be a sanctioning body.
Yep.
And that's a little trickier, but you know how cost prohibitive getting into any organized sport can
Yeah.
be for some families, especially for those who can't afford the best equipment. Is that
Yeah.
on the road maybe?
So something we're excited to look at down the road. One thing that we're doing now, the Denver Broncos Foundation has incredible grantees, one of which with an organization called Good Sports. So we actually partner with Good Sports to make those equipment donations at the youth level, as well as the middle school level. So we do have granting and programs in place for that. We also offer a community grant program where youth organizations can apply for funding for their own equipment needs. And so while we are hand in hand with CHSAA and true, like the distribution format of that, we are still impacting the game at various levels throughout the state with equipment.
Mike, I got a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Colorado is often talked about in football as the flyover state. How does this kind of, I guess, boost up Colorado football across some of the other states and I guess the talent level as well?
I don't know who's saying that, but I need to give you my card so they can call me. It does. I mean, I think Colorado does fly under the radar a little bit. We produce some of I think there's 2 tight ends, if I'm not mistaken, that might be taken in the draft, high in the draft this year that are from Colorado. That's off the top of my head. But we actually produce a large number of great football athletes and athletes across the board. I'm talking about Gatorade Athletes of the Year type thing. What it does, I think, more importantly, just to support tackle football, this sets a standard as the Broncos Foundation and the Broncos do across the entire country, right? I won't be surprised if other NFL programs and owners and they look at this and say, "Wow, we didn't think of that?" We're just blessed in Colorado to have such, like I said, caring, passionate servant leaders as owners of a cherished franchise that I know for myself, I grew up loving and supporting. So the impact it has just is so far-reaching. I think it's hard to say that it definitely will have an impact on tackle football programs and highlighting football, which we've done with girls flag. Now we continue to do with tackle. But I think it just speaks to the standard that the Denver Broncos Foundation and the organization themselves set as leaders on this space.
Is there a way that these are going to be distributed since there's so many classifications in so many schools? Like, is it all going to be for 6A and 5A and then kind of go down? Is it going to be distributed throughout?
That's a great question. It was one of the key discussion points early in our brainstorm around the concept of the program. It was important to us that when this launched, truly every school was all in. And every school was covered. And so we did look at opportunities, or we looked at different models where we would be identifying schools based on geographic location, or we would be doing that based on classification. But at the end of the day, the program is based around equity and providing equitable access. And we did not want to be making decisions as to which school deserved helmets in which year at what time. And so for us, when you take out that question and you lean back on the values of the foundation and the values of the organization, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We're going to do it the right way, the first time, the first year. So every single school is receiving helmets this year. And then they'll receive 25% of their helmets this year, and then each year of the 4-year program.